Let's make a keylogger in Python using PyCharm. So open up your PyCharm, and the first thing you want to install is PyInput. Pip install pynput. This will take care of installing or reading all the keystrokes coming from your keyboard. So let's start importing the libraries from pyinput.keyboard. So there's a keyboard argument in PyInput. Import key and listener. Now, the key is going to be storing all the key presses that you have on the keyboard, and listener is defined so that PyInput can read for keystrokes. So whenever listener is initialized or activated, it will start reading your keyboard strokes. And we'll initialize key listener right now. So with listener, and the listener can also call functions that you want to press. So on press, on release. It should do certain functions as listener, and we'll call listener join. So at this stage we are just initializing the listener, and whenever listener is reading, it will call on press, it will call on release. So pressing is on press and release is whenever you're releasing a keystroke. So we'll define diff on press, and it'll take an argument which is nothing but the key. Let's say we'll do something, and then define on release. And we'll do something in this function as well. So whenever the listener is running, and if you press a keystroke, it'll call this function on press, and whenever you release the keystroke, it'll call this function on release. But let's now try to read the key that's being pressed. So let's say you have the on press function, and at this stage if we just try to print the key, we say print key, and we'll just say we'll try to print everything in one line. So instead of initial or ending it with a new line, we'll say ending with a space, and we'll say print pressed. So it'll be like this thing pressed, or this key pressed. No need of pass function right now, and let's just run this, and we see that the function is now running. And if I just try printing something for the sake of it, so you can see right on the bottom here, it's able to print all these letters, and it's having these inverted commas right next to it, and it's telling you that this key was pressed. But now let's take this information and try to use it in a useful and humanly useful possible way. So what we will do is we will call two variables to store all these keystrokes, and we'll say keys is an array that will store all the keys that we are pressing. Once we have that, I'll also initialize a count variable, which will take in information of how many keys are being pressed. So whenever, let's say, a key reaches 10 keystrokes, whenever you have typed 10 keywords here, it will store all of them together and then maybe dump it onto a file. So we'll do that. So we pressed all of them. Now, once that is ready, I don't think we need to print this again. We just take that information now and store all of them into an array. So we say keys.append str key. So it's just going to now initialize. We have the array keys, and it'll just keep adding the new keystrokes that we press. And we'll also increase the count, right? So every time there's a new keystroke count, it'll increase by 1. But now you can see that this is not being counted, or it's not able to define, just because this was defined out of the scope of the function. So we'll bring them down here. We'll say global keys and count. So then the function can know. Now, when the on presses function is clicked, we'll just say on press equal to on press, and on release equal to on release. So it'll just call those functions. And whenever the count reaches 10. So if count is greater than 10, send this out to dump in a file. Let's make count is equal to 0, so it can initialize again back to 0, and call this function called write to a file, maybe. Yeah, we'll send everything to a file, and we'll send the keys that we found. And here now let's define the function write to a file. Define write to a file, and I'll take in the keys that we sent. Now we have individual keys, right? And we're running into this issue where all of them are coming individually, right? So these inverted commas are there, and it's giving out these key space whenever you're pressing the space button, and like that. That's how Pi input reads. So it differentiates between the space, backspace, enter, and all the special keystrokes that we have on the keyboard. So we'll try to make it easy. So that way, when a human person is reading it, so they know that this was what was pressed, or before we send them out to the log file. So what we'll do is let's bring in all the keys into a message. So a message will nothing be maybe a small paragraph that then we can then send it to a log file or a txt or not notepad file. So we'll say message equal to nothing. At this point, it's nothing. And we'll store all the keystrokes into that message variable. So we'll say for key in all of these keys. So keys is nothing but an array, right? So we're just looping through every bit of the array. And first, let's remove all these inverted commas. So we'll say for key, and we'll say k is that message, small letter of the message that needs to go in. So k is equal to key dot replace the inverted comma with nothing, and then you have k. At the same time, the key dot space that we see, like for example here we have key dot space. So let's remove that, and instead of this we'll press, we'll put the real space. So we'll say key dot replace this, and if key is equal to key double equal to key dot space, at that instant k is equal to nothing but a space, and at that stage we'll just increment our message. So we say message plus equal to k. That's it. Once we have all the message ready for us, then let's send it to the log file or a txt notepad file. So we'll open up a notepad file. We'll say with open record.txt. This is going to take a record of all the keys pressed, right? And we'll open it in the append format, so we can always change it as f. Okay, so now we'll call this f variable and start storing the message. So we'll say f.write. Let's write a new line whenever it has a new message that's going to be sent out. So f.write message. And should we press or print the message as well? Print message as well. Okay, perfect. So I think this will take care of creating the notepad file. It'll store all the information. Everything looks to be okay. And we are changing the key dot space to space, the real space. But let's run this. And we're going to create something. We'll say for key.keys. So there was an error here. So let's see. Oh, with F. So everything has to move. Okay, perfect. So now let's rerun this. And let's try to print this. Hello, this is a test of Keylogger on Python. Let's see if it works. Oh, let's come down, and I think we can end this. And we can see there's a record.txt file that automatically got created, and it is taking care of all the information. Key shift R hello die. Hello, this is a test. This is a test of Keylogger. So it has all the information. Now you can see it's taking all these unnecessary keystrokes that I pressed for making caps lock or small caps. So we can remove this by just saying, hey, if key or has any word called key, or if key in key k is equal to nothing but this. So it'll just remove any word that has the word key in this. Okay, so let's run this. Oops, I think we need to remove this line here. Now let's rerun this, and let's try printing this. Hello, this is again a test of Python keylogger with special. I'll press the tab, I'll press the shift, strokes, something. Okay, so now let's come down here, let's close this, and let's come back to our log or record.txt file, and you can see it's now having all this information, but without the key or the key variables that we saw earlier. So these key is now no longer there. So this is nothing but taking that information, raw information that came from the keys, then massaging it a little bit, and then putting it onto a file. The next stage, we can see how we can send this out by email or even on a network computer, sending it from one computer to another on the same network. Sounds interesting? Let's see. All right, take care. Bye-bye.